Joining me next is David Kelley. Dave Kelley is he was a longtime Montpelier resident and actually moved out west for a little while, came back to Vermont, settled in Greensboro with his wife Kelly, and they've been in Greensboro now for about 4 or 5 years, and I wanted to get a little perspective from one of the community's newer residents, and so I thought, hey Dave, come on and join the program this morning. And he was willing to do so, and we're so glad. Thanks for joining us, Dave.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I want to tell you I'm very grateful for this platter of Jasper Hill cheese that's in front of us right now, because it's the best cheese in America.
Yep. But Dave Kelley, you're a relative newcomer to Greensboro, and I wanted to get a perspective of somebody who is in that place in life. Tell us, why'd you move here?
Well, to some extent, it was just an accident. My wife and I have always loved the Northeast Kingdom. I have some businesses in Montpelier. I wanted to be close to the lakes, Caspian and Willoughby and Seymour, the lakes I love, and the fishing I love, and but I also wanted to be close enough to Montpelier to get there from time to time, and so Greensboro just looked like a good place on the map, and I think it's turned out to be a really. I think we're here for life.
That's excellent. That is if you're going to settle someplace and say this is it, I can't blame you for Greensboro at all. It seems like a really it's a charming old town, and at the same time, it has all this pretty exciting new stuff going on. I mean, I think of the businesses that have popped up here in the last couple of decades. Of course, Pete's Greens is famous around Vermont now for producing excellent produce and organically grown produce. They do quite an extensive CSA. Circus Smirkus is a really half camp for youth, a summer camp for youth, and half really highly skilled circus. Their performances are well worth taking in. I've done that a number of times in my time here in Vermont, and boy, that's just so much fun. Jasper Hill Cheese, we've already extolled the virtues of their delicious products here. Hill Farmstead Brewery, Sean Hill is making an international name for himself as an award-winning brewer of delicious beers and ales and so on. It's really excellent work. And then last year, I'm hearing repeated references to, and I think we're gonna have a guest on in a little bit from the Highland Center for the Arts here in Greensboro. Just opened last year. I understand there was a major benefactor who enabled that to happen, and it has happened. And now Greensboro has become a destination for people wanting to see excellent plays and hear great music. And it's just seems like an exciting place to be here. And it's kind of amazing that you have this combination of the history and this sense of the future as well.
Well, there's this great line from a song by Bob Dylan. You're either busy being born or you're busy dying. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think a community has to be dynamic, almost like a forest. And we have a really exciting future when you look down the road with the businesses we have here, with the natural resources and the wildlife, the conserved land. But the future is complicated. If we're going to attract the kind of young people with children we really need to keep this community vibrant, to keep our school here with the pressure from Act 46, then we do need more affordable housing. And quite frankly, if we're going to attract the kind of people that Governor Scott wants to attract, the telecommuters, the young, well-educated entrepreneurs, then we do need better cell service, and we do need faster internet service. But going forward, we need to be careful that we don't Disneyland ourselves, that we don't hit a tipping point where the beauty of this place becomes the attraction that kills it. So we've got to walk forward with a balanced look, but plainly we need to make some changes. We need to change our zoning laws. I think here in the center of town we need to create a septic system that works for everybody. Mm-hmm. We need to be well aware of the pitfalls of Act 46 and the dangers it presents for keeping our school here in town.
Well, tell me a little more about that. I mean, you were on was it the regional school or the?
I was on the Hazen School Board, and I was on the Act 46 study committee that we put together for our community. And You know, it's interesting. Act 46 is kind of an Orwellian statute. They open up the statute with an introduction that says it isn't the intent of this statute to close small schools. But if you begin to understand the statute and how it works, that's very much the intent. For one thing, the small schools grants that were put in place in 1997, recognizing the importance of small schools here in Vermont, those are at risk of being lost, and those are important to communities like Greensboro. More importantly, with these mergers, especially the forced mergers where small schools are forced to merge with a larger community, when those larger communities control the school board and they need to boost their equalized pupil numbers and their revenues, the most tempting thing is to close a small school and use those students to juice up the larger community's revenues and pupils. So going forward, there's going to be a lot of conflict. I feel like we here in Greensboro are really very much devoted to our school, and I think we're going to be able to preserve our small elementary school.
And it seems to me that if there's a little bit of chicken and egg thing going on here, because you want to keep the school population up, you want to attract more young families to move to Greensboro, and if either of those things don't work, then the likelihood grows that you lose your school. And if there's any signal to young families with kids to not move to a community, that would be one, right?
That would be it. That would be, I think, to a very large extent, the death knell to some of the small rural communities in the Northeast Kingdom.
I mean, I was asking this question a little bit earlier in the program, one of our other guests, and I just wonder, when I go down the list of businesses that have come here since they say the turn of the century, 18 years ago, I think Circus Smirkus may have been around a little longer than that, but I think Pete's Greens is probably in that category. Jasper Hill Cheese, certainly Hill Farmstead is one of the newer entrants in the local commerce here.
Right.
With all of these things going on, it seems like also that Greensboro might survive in a reasonably good shape if it had to, without a school. I'm not. I mean, what do you think about that?
Greensboro is going to survive no matter what because we have the lake.
Yeah.
We have one of the three most beautiful lakes in the state of Vermont, and that will be here. And we have people who are committed to preserving the beauty of the lake. We have. Not everybody in the state capital is committed to conserving the beauty of our lake as we are locally, but that attraction alone gives us some certainty. Going forward, though, if we want to be the kind of community that I think most people envision, we plainly are going to have to attract more younger families. This is getting to be an older community. Act 60 had a big impact. A lot of families, when the tax structure on property in Vermont changed, couldn't afford to own second homes along a lake like Lake Caspian, and that created, I think, a schism between more affluent and less affluent families. And affordable housing is a big, important challenge for us.
Yeah, and I wondered, tell me a little more about the school. How has the student population, the student body size changed over the last 20 years? Has it shrunk similar to the elsewhere in Vermont?
Yeah, it's shrunk, but in the last 5 or 6 years, it's been pretty stable.
Wow. Okay.
So,
and is that, do you think, due to the influx of new people who are working at these businesses? They're getting
to a large extent. But what's happening is, even though these people, I think Jasper Hill just recently hired a few dozen people. I mean, we're talking about businesses that are, I think, doing pretty well, and a lot of those people are, unfortunately, looking for homes in Craftsbury, where they have no zoning, but still a beautiful community, and in Hardwick, and they can travel to Greensboro. We need a situation that lets them live here, and we need to provide the kind of housing that will allow some of the people we're attracting to this part of Vermont to live here in our community.
Dave Kelley I want to thank you so much for joining us. A relatively new Greensboro resident, just the last 4 or 5 years, and thanks so much. Appreciate it.
But an old Dave Graham friend, and it's always good to talk to you.
It's always good to talk to you too, Dave.